Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for coming today. Can you hear me all right? Yes. Yeah? Good. Thank you. Right. In that case, I've got quite a bit of chair's business here, but we'll get started. Okay, so I'll start off with apologies for absence. I've got Councillors Brown, Goggin, Eddy, Ali, Hopkinson, Ash and Kumar. Is anybody aware of any other additional ones? No? Right, okay.
Can we also just welcome the representative from the PCC's office, which is Paul Butler? Welcome.
Thank you. Good. We don't have any fire alarm testing scheduled for today?
No, Chair, no fire alarm. So if it does go off, it will be for a real event. Members and colleagues, if you can leave the room through either one of the doors, which you'll see that you entered the room into, and you can either turn left or turn right along the corridor, and that will lead you to a fire escape if your exit is blocked through the staircase that you came up through to enter the building today, the central staircase. And if we can congregate on the rear yard, please, for a roll call if we do have an incident. Thank you. Yeah, there's plenty out there.
Quite. It's the new swimming pool out there. Yeah. Right. Moving onwards then. Emergency. We've just done emergency evacuation. Declaration of interest.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just from me, in relation to one paper on the agenda, which is the Member Allowances Scheme 23-24, please note that that paper introduces the second year of increases in member allowances as recommended by an independent review of member allowances, which, as you will recall, was conducted by Bryony Holden, who's the Chief Executive of South West Councils, and she prepared a report dated November 2021. She conducted benchmarking across fire and rescue authorities and found that allowances at Avon Fire Authority were particularly low and recommended increases over 2 financial years. So the reason I declare that now is that paper affects all elected members here today. So I'm making a sort of a bulk declaration of interest on behalf of you all in that paper. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Public access, we've received no requests for public access. Nope. So I'd like to welcome you all to the meeting and confirm that the Fire Authority meeting is taking place at Severn Park, and we're also recording the meeting for the public to view on the Fire Authority YouTube channel. So I'm now going to go around the room and ask members to introduce themselves. I'll start with myself. My name's Brenda Massey. I'm a councillor for Southmead in Bristol and chair of the Fire Authority. Let's go around that way.
Yes, Councillor Shelley Bromley for Western and Bath and North East Somerset Council.
Hi, Councillor Steve Smith for Westbury-on-Trim and Henleys on Bristol City Council.
Richard Tucker, North Somerset Council, Western-super-Mare and Bilton Ward.
Don Davis, North Somerset Council, Peel Ward.
Robert Payne, Councillor for Western-super-Mare Central, North Somerset Council.
Good afternoon, Adam Monk, Councillor representing Filton, South Gloss Council.
Councillor Yasin Mahmood, Lawrence and Wald, Bristol City Council.
Andrew Varney, Councillor for Brislington West, Bristol City Council.
Ben Utland, Councillor for Yate North in South Gloucestershire.
Sean Spearing, Group Manager, Risk Management, Avon Fire and Rescue Service.
If we could just continue with the members first, thank you. So if we could go round, Councillor Butters.
Councillor Neil Butters, Bath Avon South Ward, Bath North East Somerset.
Councillor David Wilcox, representing Lockleys in the fine city of Bristol.
Councillor Ruth Jacobs, North Somerset Council, Wick St Lawrence and St George's.
Paul Butler, I'm the CFO for the PCC's office, representing Mark Shelford today.
Thank you. Can I now ask officers to introduce themselves, and we'll go around the same way again.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Simon Shilton, your Chief Forester and Chief Exec.
Good afternoon, Steve Imrie, one of the ACFOs.
Good afternoon, I'm Angie Feeney, Director of Corporate Services here at Avon Fire and Rescue Service.
Good afternoon, Sean Spearing again, Group Manager, Risk Management, Avon Fire Rescue Service.
Good afternoon, Dave Hodges, Area Manager.
Good afternoon, members. Scott Ward, Corporate Assurance and Business Planning Manager at Avon Fire Rescue Service.
I'm Natalie Mainstone, I work in Risk Management. Afternoon, I'm Amber Foreman, Head of Corporate Communications.
French Risk Management.
Caroline Taylor, Head of Corporate Assurance, Continuous Improvement and Planning.
Claire Bentley, Head of Finance, Avon Fire and Rescue Service.
Richard Welsh, Assistant Chief Fire Officer.
Kevin Woodward, Interim Treasurer.
Amanda Brown, Clerk to Avon Fire Authority.
Thank you, and I believe we've got a representative from the press with us today, this afternoon. Yep. Would you like to shout your name out so we know who you are? Thank you. Right, okay, so can I just remind you all to use your microphones when speaking and remember to turn them off when you stop speaking as well. Any voting required will take place by asking members for a show of hands in the order of any votes against, any abstentions and any votes for. And following suggestions from members to save time at Fire Authority meetings, all committee meetings, including confidential ones, will be noted together in one block as they have already been approved by their committees. Therefore, members should please raise any discrepancies at the beginning of this section, as we will not be going through each set of committee minutes individually. However, if you wish to discuss the committee confidential minutes further, please advise me and do not raise the content of the exempt minutes until we reach the confidential section at the end of the meeting. Fire Authority minutes will still be considered separately. That's the full Fire Authority minutes. The Fire Authority has now published its pre-election guidance, which remains in place until the polls close on the 4th of May 2023. Elections are taking place for the unitary authorities of Bath and North East Somerset, North Somerset and South Gloucestershire, not in Bristol. We've got a free year. Members and officers are encouraged to read the guidance emailed on Friday the 17th of March and to act in accordance with it. Fire Authority meetings will continue to deal with the day-to-day business for the Fire Authority. I'd also like to advise that the Fire Authority AGM will take place on the 21st of June, which will allow the unitary authorities to nominate new members to the Fire Authority. And moving on to something... Oh, sorry, I missed the bit about new members induction, although there won't be any new members here, but still. Take place for new members on the 14th of June. Okay, so that's quite a lot of comments, I'm afraid, from that. Now, this will actually be the last Fire Authority for a number of you here today, and I'd like to thank you, all of you, for your service for the Authority and wish you well for the future. So, on behalf of the Fire Authority and the service, the Chief Fire Officer would like to present you with certificates. So I'd like to start with Councillor Shelley Bromley.
Shelley, on behalf of the Chair and myself, thank you very much for being a member of the Fire Authority. And we wish you well for everything.
Thank you, Shelley, and it's been a pleasure knowing you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Right. Councillor Ruth Jacobs.
Thank you, Ruth, on behalf of the Chair and the service. Thank you very much for being a member of the Fire Authority. And I think you wanted to say a few words.
I did.
Yes.
As I'm not going to be here, I just wanted to say, most of you will know that I am the champion at Station 18, Red Watch. We do a monthly tour of my ward with my team, and they've asked me if I would be a volunteer, which I will be. So some of you will see me. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But what I do want to say is how extremely proud I am of my team, who have been absolutely superb. And the last time we went out, they insisted I went round with them in the cab, which I've never done. It was an absolute hoot, I have to say. And I am so proud of Station 18 and of all those people involved. And I think everybody should know. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Neil next.
Yes. And now we have sorry.
Neil Butters.
Is that John?
No, he's not here.
He's not here. Oh, right. Sorry, I was just checking somebody's not actually here. Councillor Neil Butters.
Neil, on behalf of the Chair and the Service, thank you very much for being a long-standing member of the Fire Authority for 8 years, so a full 2-year term, which is the maximum a member could serve. And we really appreciate all of your contribution and your commitment to the service, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we wish you well for the future.
That's very kind. Yes, I'm very proud to have served for that period of time, and thank all the good friends that I've met over the years, and hard-working officers and excellent colleagues.
And just checking we've got the right one. Councillor Don Davis.
So Don, another long-standing member of the Fire Authority and former Chair and current Vice Chair.
Thank you.
And would like to say thank you on behalf of the present Chair of the Fire Authority and all of colleagues in the service. Thank you very much for everything that you've done for us as a service, particularly leading the service for a really, really challenging and difficult time post the independent inspection. Your tutorship, your candour, for me personally, as well as other colleagues, I've been hugely grateful for that, and we wish you well for all the future, so thank you, Don.
Anybody here and anybody watching the recording, thank you very much for the support I've had over the last 8 years, several as the Chair or Vice Chair. Thank you to all the officers and to the politicians. And I would hope that Avon Fire Service and Avon Fire Authority are now in a better place as I leave for others to continue the improvement journey than when I first came in 2015. So thank you.
And I'd like to add my personal thanks to Dawn for being such a support, particularly when we've had the rough times as well as the good times. So thank you. Right, there may also obviously be further changes to the membership after the elections on the 4th of May. So if I don't have an opportunity between now and then to say thank you, I really do thank everybody here and give you all the best wishes for the future. So hopefully we'll see you back, but obviously everybody knows politics doesn't always go the way you want it to. If you're not remaining on the authority and you've got an ID badge for headquarters, one of these yellow ones, it'd be very grateful if you could please return it to Emma before either today or as soon as possible. Right, I think it's...
Thank you, Chair. Just one item from me. So following the governance review that we heard, the outcome of that review at lunchtime, I have already arranged in diaries a cross-party constitution working group. That's an online meeting next Wednesday, the 5th of April. So thank you to those elected members who are helping with that. We will consider the governance review report in much more detail, and I have already fixed in your diaries, you'd be delighted to hear, an extraordinary Fire Authority meeting on Tuesday the 25th of April at 1100 hours here at Severn Park, and that's when you will consider the recommendations made to you by that Constitution Working Group, and that will concern amendments to the governance arrangements and any consequential amendments required to the Constitution. So thank you for your input on the briefing before this meeting, and I will keep you informed as matters progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, item 6.1, minutes of the ordinary meeting of Avon Fire Authority held on the 14th of December 2022. I'd like to move those as a correct record. Does anybody second them? Thank you. Are they agreed? Yep. Great, thank you.
Is everybody voting in favour? Hands in favour? Thank you.
Yeah. Item 6.2, minutes of the extraordinary meeting of Avon Fire Authority held on the 17th of February 2022. I'd like to move those as a correct record, so can I see those in favour?
Seconder.
Seconded. A seconder? Yes, Shelley, thank you. Okay.
Everyone in favour?
Yeah, they all put their hands up.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right, item 7.1, 7.2, 7.3 and 17.1. Approval of committee minutes. And are you happy to note the open and confidential committee minutes in those items? Can I see those in favour?
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
We do 16 as well at the same time, Brenda?
I'm not sure. 16 seems to have gone missing. 16 in there?
It's only because they're considered individually, because they're fire authority minutes.
Why don't we just do them now?
If there's no changes,
Yeah.
people are happy.
Item 16?
16.1, 16.1, 16.2 and 16.3 are all the confidential minutes for fire authority meetings. Do members have any comments on those minutes, or are they happy with them? Can we have a proposer? Don? A seconder?
Yeah, Adam. Okay. Can I see those in favour, please? That's everybody.
Super, thank you.
Thank you. Good. Right, on to item 8, which is the appointment of the Statutory Finance Officer, and I'm going to pass over to Amanda for this one.
Thank you, Chair. I won't take very long with this paper. The People and Culture Committee were tasked by you, members of Avon Fire Authority, to conduct a recruitment process for a new statutory finance officer. I can report back that interviews took place on the 30th of January 2023, and the Fire Authority is asked to formally appoint Miss Verity Lee as the Avon Fire Authority's new statutory finance officer, and she will start in her role on the 2nd of May 2023. I won't go through the detail of the paper, but she is on a 3.5 working day arrangement. Her pay is set out at 4.1 pro rata with the chief's pay for statutory officers. Under the key considerations, I can confirm that there was a thorough recruitment process, that the job was advertised on the 1st of December, shortlisting happened on the 18th of January, and I can confirm that candidates were interviewed. And Ms. Lee is a qualified accountant. She brings considerable experience to the Fire Authority. She has worked many years for an accountants where she specialised in audit work, and has most recently worked in the aerospace industry where she's had wide responsibility, including governance and compliance. So unless you have any questions, we do have interim arrangements in place. So the interim treasurer to my right, Kevin Woodward, has very kindly agreed to extend his tenure until the end of April. So that covers the post in the meantime. So please could I'm happy to take any questions, and if I could have a proposer. Thank you.
Just a quick question. Obviously, Verity's starting the 2nd of May. Kevin's leaving on the 30th of April. Does that present a problem in terms of Verity's induction? Because obviously it would be great if Kevin were available to help with that.
Yeah, thank you. We have put arrangements in place to extend Kevin for that period of time in interim, and also to allow a crossover as well for Verity as part of her introduction to the service. And I've also arranged through the National Fire Chiefs Council a colleague who is current finance officer to be a mentor and also a support as well.
Any votes against or abstentions? All those in favour? Thank you.
Right, thank you. And the next item, item 9, is the annual update of service plan, including IRMP. And I think You're introducing that?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Members, in front of you today is a paper which presents your service plan. The service plan is a 3-year plan, and this one is running from 2023 to 2026. It gets rewritten every third year, but refreshed each year in between that total rewrite. Within the paper in front of you today, there are 2 recommendations. Those recommendations are that the Fire Authority is asked to consider the outcomes of the public consultation, and we'll talk through that in a moment. And subject to recommendation A above, the public consultation, approve the service plan 2023 to 2026. Before I sort of introduce the plan and allow colleagues also to run through various elements of that plan, the service plan and the consultation, I'd just like to say a special thanks to colleagues in the service who've worked incredibly hard to put this together. Most of those colleagues are in the table in front of you, members, but special mention please to Scott Ward, to Darren French, to Amber Foreman, Helen Dumbarton, who's not here today, and also Natalie Mainstone, who have been instrumental in bringing all of the information together and refreshing the elements of the service plan where they were needed to do so. The service plan itself consists of 2 documents in one. So it's both our community or integrated risk management plan, also known as a community risk management plan, and also our service plan, our response to who, what, why, where and when somebody is at risk from needing our service. And that is around our local risk and national risk, community risk register, how we bring all of those together to make those assessments and where we place our resources to be able to respond to those risks under prevention, protection, response, and also maintaining a resilient fire and rescue service as well. It includes our mission, our vision and our values, and also includes our 2 key priorities of making our communities safer. Of course, we do that through preventing, protecting and responding, building resilient service, and also making our organisation stronger through investing in our service and investing in our people. With a 3rd element to it as well, a 3rd objective, which relates to transformation and transforming the organisation and digitising the service to make it fit for the future. So with that, I'll introduce Caroline, who will take us through the paper. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk you through the process that we've been through. As already mentioned, it's a 3-year plan that's rolling. Each year the plan goes through a refresh, and the refresh for this plan started back late last summer, where a number of senior leaders and officers in the organisation went through the service plan to agree the objectives in the service plan and that they were still aligned to our key priorities and our commitments to our communities, and to refresh and update where necessary. At the same time this work was being undertaken, we had work happening to refresh our baseline data and to conduct a strategic risk assessment and monitor our progress against the actions in the service plan. An update to the key assumptions and findings identified by the community risk management planning and business planning teams was provided to members at a briefing session in November, and a report was also presented to members in December at the Avon Fire Authority meeting, where members were able to offer their feedback. As part of the process, the development of the service plan has also been integrated into our financial planning cycles, and therefore the delivery of the service plan has been included in the medium-term financial plan approved by the Fire Authority in February. So that gives you an overview of the process that we've been through in pulling this plan. I'm now going to hand you over to Dave Hodges, who's going to talk you through in a bit more detail about the CRMP, the Community Risk Management Plan and the strategic assessment.
Thanks, Caroline. Members, sirs, ma'am, so I'm now going to talk through the Community Risk Management Planning process and the strategic assessment process. So under the Fire and Rescue National Framework for England, we have a statutory duty to produce an Integrated Risk Management Plan, IRMP. In Avon Fire and Rescue Service, our service plan incorporates findings from our Community Risk Management Planning process with the business and financial plan. This plan must reflect our local assessment of risk and what we will do as a service to put in place appropriate prevention, protection, response and resilience measures to mitigate those risks. This is achieved through risk modelling and analysis of local data and census information, for example. We've adopted the National Fire Chiefs Council Community Risk Management Strategic Framework, which is best practice and meets our legislative framework and governance requirements as defined in the Fire Standards Board Fire Standard for Community Risk Management Planning. And this gives us guidance on how to define the scope of the CRMP, so what it is we want to achieve, what do we need to produce, what are our deliverables and our expected outcomes. And this needs to be easily accessible and publicly available, and we'll talk more in that after me. It also lays out how we identify and analyse hazards, challenges and opportunities that the service may face. So we carry out a strategic assessment in conjunction with corporate assurance in the form of a Postello analysis, so political, environmental, sociological, technological, economic, legal and organisational. Produce a baseline report that uses data from the Incident Reporting System, IRS, to analyse trends in incidents, help with identifying emerging risks and potential shifts in demands on the fire service so that we can match our resources to risk. We assess the National Risk Register and Community Risk Registers and combine this research with horizon scanning to highlight any possible future risks. And we carry out detailed risk assessments to determine the level of an identified hazard and to propose the appropriate response measures. So an example of that is we've observed an increase in incidents related to lithium-ion batteries. We've highlighted this as an emerging risk to our community and have formed an appropriate response. And that comprises social media campaigns to educate our community, additional training for our firefighters, and further research by our risk analysis team. Analysis is then presented to the Service Leadership Board and the financial officers, and they set out their proposals for the strategic input and subsequent plans for delivering and balancing the risks, challenges and opportunities against the vision, mission, values and our available budgets. So by continually consulting with our community, staff and partners on these proposals, we can ensure transparency within our planning process, adjust plans where necessary and raise awareness of our work. So if there's no questions, I'd now like to hand you over to Amber, who will talk you through the consultation process and methodology, mechanisms we use to consult on the refresh service plan.
So we consulted on the service plan for a 4-week period throughout January, from the 3rd to the 30th of January earlier this year, and that was predominantly focused on an online survey-based questionnaire, but hard copies were made available and copies in different formats on request. So the survey set out multiple questions asking for views on our proposals within the service plan. It asked for the public and recipients to comment on our planning process, to comment on the identified risks to local communities and our proposed actions that we are outlining to address these risks under the 7 key objectives. There was also questions in relation to our budget, and we also asked people if they would voluntarily give up some information about themselves to help us understand who we were reaching with the survey. So the consultation was sent out extensively, both externally to stakeholders, to our local communities, and internally with our staff. In total, we received 444 questionnaire responses. Just to give you some comparatives, this compares to 210 responses that were received last year, so that's a 110% increase on last year, and it's up from 173 responses 2 years ago. So we recognise this is still a very small percentage of our population. It's actually 0.04%. But actually, when you look at this comparably to other fire and rescue services, it is in line with their figures as well. So we adopt a fully integrated approach to reach and engage with as many people as possible. And within the consultation report, you'll see a full list of stakeholders we've engaged with and some of the tactical communications and engagement activity that's been undertaken. Some of this includes contacting and reaching out to the local media, advertising the survey via social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, emails directly to stakeholders and partner agencies and our community contacts, I'd also like to thank Councillor Monk, because after last year's consultation, he became the members' champion for corporate communications, and we had conversations in the lead up to the consultation and during, with lots of ideas shared about how else we could further engage on that. So overall, 60% of respondents strongly agreed or agreed with our planning approach, and 80.9% of respondents strongly agree or agree with the risk we've identified. And further details of the percentages of respondents that agreed with the actions outlined against our 7 objectives can be found within the consultation report. But just to sum it up, the vast majority, 85% roughly, strongly agreed or agreed with the actions that we've outlined.
Thank you, Amber. So members, for that feedback process, we made some minor changes. As previously mentioned, this is a refresh, not a rewrite. So really, as part of that refresh is to review risk information that we had in front of us from the analysis that Dave spoke through there a moment ago. Community feedback, we made some 3 minor changes, included a narrative in relation to key challenges and community risk findings, updated performance metrics and some financial information, and also added a little bit more context to recent service achievements as well. Those actions have also been reviewed by the key owners of those actions within the service plan to make sure that they are still fit for purpose and still relevant with both internal and external factors taken into consideration. You'll see from the draft service plan presented to you today, members, that as part of the papers there are 2 appendices presented. Appendix 1 is the final draft service plan for 2023 and 2026, which has been refreshed as mentioned, and Appendix 2 is the service plan 2023-2026 consultation report. So members, as previously mentioned, this is your plan that you hold me to account to deliver on your behalf. Is how we are going to meet our community expectations based on risk. And I put the service plan to you, members, for any questions that you might want to ask for the team or myself. Thank you.
Can I say, I think this looks a really attractive, easy to read document. I think that's a huge improvement on previous years, so thank you for that. Any questions from anybody? Steve?
Thank you. This may just be, as a relatively new member, this is the first time I've been through this process. I agree this is really attractive. It's easy to read. Part of the reason for that is it's relatively light on detail. I'm assuming behind this sit the detail of the various risk reports and much more detailed action plans. Are those also made public, or are those internal documents?
So they're mainly internal documents, but they are posted on the internet. So we have service delivery plan. Different directorates have their elements and plans of how they will deliver the objectives within the main service plan.
I just wanted to make one comment that I think some of the actions in here, I really like the logical flow from risk to high-level objectives, risks through to actions. That's clear. I think some of the actions read as a little bit vague. They're not written in terms of smart targets, which then to someone looking at this from the outside, if you don't have sight of the more detailed stuff that sits underneath it, it's quite hard to look at this and say, actually, in 2 years' time or 3 years' time, has that been delivered? So I'm more than happy to sign this off. I think it's great, but as a constructive feedback, it might be helpful to members of the public to see a little bit more detail on what is it we're actually going to do.
I'll just respond to that.
Yeah, please.
Agree with your comments. It's something we've identified ourselves. There is a more detailed plan that sits behind it, and a service plan proposal document that as part of the refresh we are looking at, and we are working on hard to make sure those objectives in it are smart and measurable and filtering into the team plan. So it's something we very much have been having discussions with about ourselves. But these are sort of the high level strategic sort of direction, intent, where we want to go, and we're working hard on getting those very measurable below.
Yeah, I think that's good, because a cynical person looking at this, and I don't think I'm a cynical person, but a cynic reading this, some of it reads as a bit sort of vague corporate speak, and someone might think there's nothing behind it, and I know there's lots behind it, and it's a shame if that's not visible to the public when they see it.
Sorry, Chair, if I could just respond to that. Also, though, a lot of the performance metrics are presented to you, Performance Review and Scrutiny Committee, so you'll be able to see some of the detail that sits behind some of the strategic objectives that we've set. And again, that's available for public scrutiny as well.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it is an attractive document, and I take the last point made. Provided there is some sort of reference that can be followed through, I think that should cater for it, because we don't want to put people off unduly if they see a great thick document which goes into every last corner. Lithium batteries was mentioned. I don't know if this is the right place to raise it, but I was wondering to what degree there is a coordinated response nationally to dealing with them, because there's this problem of them seemingly going out and then coming back again. And I think I heard recently of one authority who had some completely submersive arrangement for dealing with them. So what is the latest state of play on that?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. We'll ask Sean to respond to that for you.
Councillor, in response to that, so there's a lot of work going on in the backgrounds with National Fire Chiefs Council that are driving understanding of the thermal runaway that happens with lithium-ion batteries. We're seeing some services that have taken steps to look at containment. Now, if we look at containment, and that is a large skip, should we say, that we can put a vehicle in that has a thermal runaway, the issue then becomes that there is no clear evidence that the water contained in there will immediately put it out, because thermal runaway is about the energy between each cell that carries on through to each battery cell as it goes and keeps going even under the water. Part of that issue is then, once that vehicle's been left for a period of time, it's what do you do with that contaminated water? So that becomes an issue. That's being looked at nationally. I'm also a hazmat officer within the Fire and Rescue Service. It's something that we're looking at as a service, but also through Tactical Hazmat and other agencies that are looking at how we would actually effectively manage lithium-ion batteries going forward, sir.
Does that answer your question, Councillor? Partly.
Okay.
That answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, any other? Oh, David, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. And to answer Councillor Smith's point, the Corporate Risk Register came to Audit Committee earlier this month, and there's lots more detail about stuff that you might find interesting.
So the answer seems to be read the minutes of the Audit Committee. Right. Okay, thank you for that report. Have you got anything else to say on it? No?
No, Chair, just the two recommendations within the report to put to members.
Right. Okay. So the recommendations are that the Fire Authority considers the outcomes of the public consultation. We'll take that as the first one. So, can I see...
I'll take them both together.
I was going to say, let's take... Yeah, okay then. The second one is subject to recommendation A above. Approve the Service Plan 2023 to 2026 for publication. Adam, are you seconding it? Yeah. Thank you. Right. Or anybody against? Any abstentions? Those in favour, please raise your hands. It's unanimous. Right, thank you very much for that. Okay. Moving on, I think it's over to the clerk for this one, about the Members' Allowances Scheme.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is my second paper. So to summarise the paper, you will be aware that in accordance with local government legislation, the Fire Authority updates its members' allowances scheme every financial year. That scheme updates your basic allowance that you receive, any special responsibility allowances. So, for example, if you're a chair of a committee or the Fire Authority chair or vice chair. It also covers the independent person's allowance and also travelling and subsistence allowances. As explained earlier in the Declaration of Interest, the scheme was independently reviewed by Bryony Holden, the Chief Executive of South West Councils, in her report dated November 2021, which is available on our internet page. It was presented to the Fire Authority on the 15th of December 2021, and you accepted all 11 recommendations and approved those. So this scheme this year incorporates what I would describe as phase 2. So there were 2 phases of increases, and this is the second phase, which increases allowances for this financial year, and also in accordance with the NJC Green Book Pay Awards. So the actual updated scheme, the wording you can see at Appendix 1, that's where the document itself sits. In terms of the detail, if you go to page 94 of your pack, at paragraph 4.2, I've set out there the figures which were recommended by Bryony Holden and then how they've been increased to reflect the NJC Green Book Pay Award. And those figures are also in red, so you can see what the first increase was recommended and then the NJC increase. So increases across the board. Really, Bryony Holden, just by way of recap, she did a lot of benchmarking across local councils and fire and rescue services and found that we were seriously underpaying our members. So that's why it's been done in a two-stage approach, so that there wasn't a huge increase last year, and it was done a little bit last year and a little bit this year. The rest of my paper sets out the legal requirements for these reviews. The next review will not be due until the autumn of 2025 in readiness for the scheme, which will be issued for the financial year 26 to 27. So I don't have anything to add about that, but happy to take any questions from members, please.
Thank you, Chair. Given we've just chosen to probably reduce the number of committees down from 3 to 2, does this pay award actually reflect the increase in workload for committee chairs, please?
No, obviously this review was done before our governance review, so that's a good point. And it may be that we bring forward the next review as a result of those changes. So I think there's going to be a bit of a test and adjust. So just because the number of committees has reduced does not necessarily mean that the workload for the 2 committees is going to dramatically increase. It might be the workload is the same or even less. So I think we need to test and adjust depending on the decision of the Fire Authority at the extraordinary meeting on the 25th of April. And then, as you say, if there is a huge difference in workloads, then I think we could bring forward the next review. But that's a good point. Thank you.
Any other comments? No. In that case, can I have a proposer and a seconder? Anyone? Shelley, thank you. And Steve. Right, in that case, if there's no more comments and we've had a proposer and a seconder, can we move to the vote? Can I see those against? Those abstaining? And those in favour?
Really retrospective.
I don't think so. Good try, Don.
The pay award, I think, is retrospective from the date of announcement. So I think that was 1st of April last year. But the actual uplift is from now. Oh, sorry, Vice Chair. I do apologise. It's a bit late for you. Thank you.
Yeah. I think we were one of the lowest paid, weren't we, authorities? So. Yes. Right. Okay. Right. So. Ooh, sorry. Right, on to the next page. Thank you. 11, that's right. The annual review of service charges. And I think the interim treasurer and head of finance are going to present those. Thank you.
Thank you, Renda. Members, we're now on item 11 on page 109 of your pack, where we have a short report which hopefully is fairly self-explanatory, which updates our schedule of special service charges for the financial year 2023-24. So in terms of the report, it's a fairly routine report that we bring to this meeting before the start of the financial year to seek approval for the uprating of that schedule. So the substantial recommendation in this report is that we increase those charges by a percentage of 7% in line with the Grey Book increase effective from July 2022. In terms of context, as detailed in the report, as members will be aware, as an emergency service, it's very rare that we levy a charge for any of our services, but under the Fire and Rescue Services Act 2004, we do have the power to charge in some circumstances, albeit that those circumstances are fairly limited and certainly wouldn't involve any incident where there would be emergency incidents needing medical attention or protection of harm. But nonetheless, there are some incidents where we are able to charge, and where we do, it has to be on a non-profit making basis, so it would be cost recovery. So it is fairly limited, and in fact for this authority we've made little use of it. In fact our income for this financial year is anticipated to be in the region of about £2,000. So going forward, it may be that we could increase our use of this legislation as potentially as we look at budget pressures over the next 2 or 3 years, but for the time being it has been fairly limited. But in terms of this report, we're asking members today to approve the revised schedule in Appendix 2, which is on page 114 of the pack, which is to increase it by a percentage of 7%, but also a subsequent recommendation that whilst we have those charges, that the power be delegated to the Chief Fire Officer to remit whole or part of the charge if in all of the circumstances he considers it appropriate to do so. So even where we do charge, it may be that we do not enforce the full charge. I'll pause there, Chair, subject to any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from anybody? Neil?
Thank you, Chair. I'm a bit puzzled. There doesn't seem to be any reference, unless I'm missing something, to false alarms, because they must comprise a major source of problem in this area. I mean, I thought normally people were given, I don't know, 5 goes or something, and anything else they'd be charged for if we don't operate that system.
So, Councillor, what we normally do with automatic fire alarms is we have a call challenge in process anyway, and we've made a commitment, the authority have made a commitment to still respond to certain fire alarm events, particularly around where life is at risk, so things like sleeping accommodation, hospitals, etc. as well. If we do have repeated incidents where a fire alarm is consistently or being called to a particular building, then we'd make a fire protection intervention from there to work with the building owner or responsible person for that building around looking at their risk assessment, their maintenance programme of the system, and what we can do to reduce those number of false alarm events if they do in case in fact occur.
I just remember that the number of the false alarm figure is actually quite a high percentage of the overall number of incidents, isn't it?
Yes, they are quite high because that's where their life risk is concerned. We have reduced those quite significantly on our call challenge and intervention, and we'll also obviously go where there's a confirmed fire as well. But the authority made a decision to maintain an attendance, albeit a reduced attendance, to life risk incidents. So I have tried to manage that appropriately and proportionately against the risk that we may well be faced with, depending on the nature of the building, process, sleeping accommodation, etc. As I've said, though, if there are repeat buildings where we have to attend on a regular occurrence, then we do make an alternative intervention through protection officers as opposed to a service charge. So we'd rather tackle the root cause through that way, through education, through prevention, through protection, as opposed to potentially penalising industry or commercial, particularly if it's a public sector as well.
Thank you. I remember us introducing this, so it appears to be proving the test of time, does it?
It is certainly something that we need to constantly keep a review of, absolutely. And if members would like for us to look at that, that's by all means we can. As I said, though, we do tend to focus on the life risk element as well, and balance that response and risk methodology.
Thank you. Any more questions from anybody? No. Yeah, oh yes, of course. Okay, in that case, can I have move to the vote on this one?
Who's going to propose?
I'm just going to ask who's going to propose it. Yes, thank you.
So, Don and Ben.
Right, thank you. And can I see anybody against the paper, the recommendations? No, any abstentions? And those in favour?
Okay.
Thank you. Right, moving onwards, we're on to the pay policy statement, which I think you're presenting, Amanda.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is my third paper. This is regarding the pay policy statement for 23-24. This is a document which has already been considered by the People and Culture Committee at their meeting on the 3rd of March, and they recommended the pay policy statement for the financial year beginning 1st of April 2023 and recommended its approval by you at this meeting today. Can I just apologise for one typo I've noticed? So in the recommendations, 2A on page 115, you are being asked to approve the pay policy statement 2023, that should say /24. So apologies that it's got 23. And that is for the financial year beginning on the 1st of April 2023. So by way of background, I'll be very brief, but this is a requirement under the Localism Act 2011. It is a pay policy statement which sets out particular statutory information, so it includes the remuneration of the chief officers, remuneration of the lowest paid employees, and the relationship, i.e. the percentage of pay between the chief fire officer and the lowest paid employees. If I turn your attention to page 116 of your bundle, you will see that we have to publish this document under the Localism Act before the 31st of March, immediately preceding the financial year to which it relates. The thing that has happened since the People and Culture meeting on the 3rd of March, however, is we have had an agreement in relation to the grey book pay position. So an offer was made which was accepted by employees of 7% backdated to the 1st of July 2022 and 5% effective from the 1st of July 23. So I just need to make clear that the version which was approved by People and Culture did not include those figures at that stage because that agreement hadn't been reached, but they've now been added to the pay policy statement at Appendix 1. Also, later this year, a report will be going to the People and Culture Committee, or whatever label the committee might have at that time, and that will deal with the gender pay gap information combined with the ethnicity pay gap information, and that's going to be presented around June of this year. I don't think there's any particular risk. We always have to publish this policy, so it's ready for you to approve, and we will be complying with the legislation in that respect. So unless you have any questions, I think that's the end of that presentation.
Thank you. I expect the Bristol councillors know the question I'm going to ask, because we have this every year at Bristol Council, that we get the report with multiples in it, but those multiples don't take into account interims and consultants on day rates who actually end up being paid a lot more than the chief exec. Are there any of those here, or do the multiples genuinely reflect the highest paid to the lowest paid?
That's a very good question, and I've never been asked that question before, so that's interesting. My understanding is that we don't have particular use. We have occasionally used consultants, but it's not a thing that features a lot certainly in my tenure, I've been here for over 2 years, I haven't noticed a huge reliance on interims and consultants, but the Chief may be able to help me with that.
Yeah, the only time we'd use consultants is for a specific task or support, which we'd go out to tender for, but we don't employ individuals that are, I guess, longevity in the work that they undertake in the service. So it would be paid employees as opposed to a contractual arrangement where we've gone out to a tender exercise for a particular service provision.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amanda, for clarifying the situation with the Grey Book. Because there's so much going on at the moment. It's yeah, I did wonder whether that was included. Okay, any more comments, questions? Yeah.
What's the point of staff morale? Under 6.2, the current ratio between the CFO and the CEO and a competent firefighter. I think all our firefighters are competent, and I don't think we need to actually express it, because it gives the implication there's a ratio for ones that aren't competent, and I know all of our firefighters are extremely competent. I know it's a bit of a joke thing to say, but I just think for a presentation of the wider community, we should say we don't have to put an adjective in front of our firefighters. They do a damn good job for us all, and we don't need to in any way qualify that.
Yeah, I think it's just raw national to mirror national terminology, to be honest, because we do have firefighters that are in development and on a slightly different pay rate, and it takes them to get to competent level, and it's just the national terminology against a pay rate per se through the NJC, really.
Interesting semantic point, I think. Thank you. Any more questions from anyone? No. And we have to vote on this one, I believe.
So can I just, because I have changed the recommendation to correct the year, so the recommendation is, could you please approve the pay policy statement for 2023-24 for the financial year beginning 1st of April 2023 for publication. Can I have a proposer and a seconder, please?
And that then includes all the changes for this. Okay, can I see anybody against? Anyone abstaining? And those in favour? It's unanimous. Good. Right. Forward plan. I think we're back to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, item 30 on the agenda is the forward plan. So this is just a summary for you, a snapshot of the reports you're expecting to see at the next meeting. So you'll see for the Fire Authority, I've mentioned just the AGM on the 21st of June. That is because the extraordinary meeting on the 25th of April will just be considering one paper, and that one paper is the output of the governance review and any recommendations the Constitution Working Group might make to you in that respect. So this document was created before that report was going to land. It also sets out the reports which are likely to go to the committees. Of course, if the committee structure should change later as a result of the meeting on the 25th of April, then this forward plan will need to be redrafted in its entirety. So as at the date of publication, it's correct. It's for information only. I don't need you to vote on it, but it is potentially subject to change. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? No. Okay, so we're happy to accept that then. Yeah, thank you. Right. So, item 14 on the agenda is the date of the next meeting is the extraordinary Fire Authority meeting on the 25th of April at Severn Park, which is the one you've just mentioned, Amanda. Then we move to the AGM on Wednesday, the 21st of June at 2 o'clock at Avonmouth Fire Station. We're showing off our new fire station again.
Yes, we are.
Brilliant. Yes. For those who haven't been there yet, it's very exciting. Okay.
We've dealt with everything already. We voted on it earlier.
That's fine. So we can get rid of all that. Okay. Oops. So we're up to, we've done all those. Is that it? Great. Okay. I've been informed that we don't need to cover any of the other items that were on my agenda. So thank you all very much for coming. And I may see some more of you at the next session when we look further into the review. But otherwise, if I'm not going to see you again because you're retiring and you're not coming to that, just wanted to say thank you so much to everybody here. It's been really appreciated, your support over the years. Thank you. And that's the end of it. Thank you.